The growing stage of embryo or embryonic development in a typical dicotyledon plants. The zygote stage, in which we study after double fertilization, one of the zygote is formed as a result of fertilization, which is a single embryonic cell. It passes through mitotic division to form a group of cells which have non-functional parts, but a tissue like a primary tissue in for plants, pro-embryo stage. Then the number of cells increase and the embryo change into a ball shape, and this ball-shaped embryo, we call it the globular stage because name of the embryo depends on its shape. In the next stage, the heart stage, because embryo in that stage look like a heart, these two parts like ventricles of heart extended out, but they are early cotyledons, which we call them as the embryonic leaf. So two extension format, it shows that the plant is dicotyledon. So the specialty of heart stage is cotyledons starts to appear. In the torpedo stage, this cotyledons extend more. Clearly can be seen that it made up of two cotyledons, and we call them dicotyledon plates. Because the embryo look like a torpedo which is upside down, we call it torpedo stage. The mature embryo stage, embryo means is the minimized organism, means a complete plant but smaller in size. It contains the root axis like a primitive root or apical meristem, which form the upper the shoot system of plant with cotyledons, which makes the primary leaves. So the mature embryo stage, embryo gets mature and starts to grow. It can made up of a shaft. Shaft means the middle part of plant between leaves and roots. The pre-root, like a simple root, pre-leaf, simple embryonic leaves, and a split stem, which consists of two cotyledons. So the embryo in that stage, and it's located in seed. The formation of seed starts after fertilization, because if fertilization happens, the seed is formed. The endosperm cell divide to form endosperm tissue, then growth and covering of egg transform into seed coat. You may remember in embryo, we said the primary tissue is nucellus, but covered by covering tissue, only one single hole remains. This covering tissue, after fertilization, it formed a hard, thin membrane, which we call it testa or seed coat. The seed at the mature stage formed from embryo and cover of seed. It most seed in dicotyledon plants like broad beans and green beans and others. But there are types of plants like wheat and corn, which are monocotyledon plants. Embryo does not use endosperm unless the seed has been planted and started to absorb water. It means the dicotyledon plants, embryo continuously use the food stored in their endosperm tissue, but the monocotyledon plants like wheat and corn, they do not use the stored food in their endosperm unless they planted and absorb water. The mature seed usually formed from embryo, endosperm, and also cover of the seed, which we call it testa or seed coat. And the picture, the seed coat, testa, endosperm, food storing tissue. Plumule is the shoot system or the part of plant above the ground but minimized in embryo. Radicle is the root system or primary root system for plants. Again, the young shoot, the part of plant above the ground. Radicle is the primary root, and embryonic leaves represent the cotyledons. Formation of fruit starts by growth and expansion of ovary wall. It's important in normal or generally the fruits are formed from ovary. This will be accompanied by the growth of the seed as the ovary wall store food and expand to form fruit. At the same time, the seed also formed in the ovary, because fertilization process result in seed formation and also stimulated, causing the expand the ovary for fruit formation. This expansion may include some other parts of flower, such as receptacle, which is base of flower, as in the apples, and sometimes covers of flowers, which calyx and corolla, like in berries. This kind of fruits are called false fruit. And they call it false fruit because fruit for not formed ovary wall, but formed from different parts of flower in receptacle, like in apples, or covers of flower, calyx, corolla, like in berries. That's why we call them false fruit. Reason, because they're not formed from ovary. A large quantity of food is needed to develop the ovary to the fruit. So foods like glucose, like product of photosynthesis, or amino acid, are transferred speedily to the wall of ovary by stimulation of fertilization through the tissues, the phloem tissue, which leak parts of flower to the stem. This food material converted and stored as feeding material, like some complex sugar, we may remember from the leucoplast from this chapter 1. When the amount of sugar is high in fruits, this sugar makes it sweet as leucot as in grape or dates. We need examples for what? For fruits that contain high amount of sugar and give sweet taste like grape. And so the sugar may convert into starch, like what? Again, we need example like corn, grains, or rice. In some kind of fruits, oils can be accumulated in the fruits, large quantities like olives. In some other kinds of fruits, water may be stored, contain high amount of water, like watermelon, melon, or tomatoes. In addition, some other plants or fruits will have very low level of water, such as walnuts, nuts, or almonds. This kind of changes to the fruit company changes to their color. The color of fruits, which is provided by chromoplast, depend on the chemical material which are stored in their stroma. For example, chlorophyll disappears and replaces it with carotene to give red color to the tomato, or the chlorophyll green color replace it with anthocyanin to give yellow color to the grape, or in some pears maybe apples or banana. The pollen grains, which is very reproductive cell, they have two roles. The first one is producing the seed, but how? This very reproductive cell which fertilize the egg with double fertilization process and cause formation of seed. The second role is stimulating special hormone from the flower, organize the maturity of ovary, storing food and converting into fruits. Means that these two roles, one of them seed formation, while the second role is fruit formation. But this process can be replaced sometimes by sprinkling some hormones over the ovary of some flowers. These plant hormones affect the ovary to get mature, because ovary, which is stimulated by fertilization, can be used artificially to the flower and cause flower to be mature and ovary to store food and form the fruit, but without fertilization. Because artificially hormone is added, we call it artificial parthenocarpic fruits, which means artificial seedless fruits. However, there are some kind of fruits which naturally have no seeds, and this I call it natural parthenocarpic fruits, which naturally have no seeds in their fruits, like pineapples and some kind of grapes. I call this question again, why there's some kind of plants naturally they have no seed in their fruits? Because it's believed that the ovary of this kind of flowers have high level of hormones So it is not needed to be stimulated by fertilization, but grow directly into fruit without seed formation. Structure fruit. It is possible to define the fruit as a mature ovary, because generally the fruits are grow from the ovary, and which is covered. Seeds are formed in fruit and consist of 3 layers. Seeds are formed in fruit. Fruit also consists of 3 layers. They are the exocarp, which is like what skin of the apple or apricot or peach. The mesocarp, which is the middle layer, or the flesh, the part of fruit we eat, like outer layer is exocarp. The endocarp is a thin, tough membrane, or we call it pith. They are all parts of fruit, but not seed. Seed located with it has what? Seed coat, in addition to endocarp, also contain embryo and endosperm, because we said mature seed made up of 3 parts also, which is seed coat, embryo, and endosperm. Similarly, the fruits are made up of 3 layers, which are exocarp, mesocarp, and endocarp. So in different plants, the layer thickness of exocarp, mesocarp, and endocarp can be different one from another. Types of fruits. The simple fruits. These fruits are product of one flower with 1 carpels or many carpels. 1 carpel, like in bean, there is only 1 compartment which contains seed, so it's 1 carpel. Also in fleshy fruit, the peach, there is only 1 room that contains the seed, 1 carpel and 1 ovary. That also 1 ovary. But in tomato, also simple fruit, there are more than 1 carpels, but it's only 1 ovary. So we call this kind of fruit as simple fruits. Aggregate fruits. These fruits are formed from many separated carpels, which are part of ovary. The fruit in this type come from the single flower, as in blackberry. 1 single flower, 1 single ovary, but ovary parts, the carpels are separated like different ovaries look like, so it called aggregate fruits. The compound fruits can be also multiple fruits, because formed from multiple flowers, a group of flowers. Each flower forms a fruit, but they remain connected to each other at maturity and look like just one complete fruit, like what? Like in pineapple. Not one flower, another flower, but they remain connected and grow together. These winged fruits, we'll start in next page. Seed and the wings of seed, which help seed to be transported to far distances. So, an advantage for seed in seed dispersal. Large number of fruits and seeds contain structures of different spatial parts to help them to spread out easily in their environment. Because we remember we said the aim of reproduction is continuity of their generation. So they have different structures, help them to spread their seeds to make similar organisms look like parents. So different factors help spread of fruit and seeds, like wind, birds, animals, human, also structure of seed and opening of fruits. The wind carries the seeds and fruits away from the mother plants. It happens in the seed of grass, weeds, and desert plant, because in this kind of plant the seeds are very light in weight and covered with hairs, like a small seed in center, but covered with many hairs. Or sometimes a seed like this, a long extension and umbrella shape, help it to fly or transport it to far distances. The animals also have the spread of the seed and fruit, so that some seed contain prickles, like horn-like structures to connect the shin, which means the hairs of animals like sheep, and so it transfers it to far distances from its position. Many water plants depends on water waves to transfer its seeds and fruits in order to keep the quality. Usually the seeds and fruits on plants, they are light and they have contained vacuums, which are spaces filled by air, help them to float on the surface of water, like in cocoa nut, because it lives near the sea especially, so fall and sea, not sink water, and can be transported to far away by waves of